Okay, trade recap. So today I took a loss and let's go over it. On the weekly, we are in the making of this weekly for value gap, and my drawn liquidity on the weekly, since I want this weekly for value gap to be created and price is showing me as well, is this weekly high, but that weekly high would then turn into this being the draw. Whoops. This high right here being the draw, since that is relative equal highs and we have no resistance in between those highs. So this high will most likely be taken if this previous week high is taken. Here on the daily time frame, we are in the making of a daily fair value gap as well, which to me is quite interesting. And here on the 4 hour, we do have this 4 hour fair value gap. But if price decides to trade into that, that would prevent the daily fair value gap from being created, which would not be ideal. That is why I did not expect, or more like want to see, a trade into that 4 hour value gap, which could have been, or not could have, which was a reason why I was very married to my bias, which is never good in trading. So that is one improvement I can make, and just when I feel like I'm married to my bias, I have to just take a step back, take a deep breath, look at the charts and ask myself, is this really the only outcome that can happen? Because it isn't. Trading is about probabilities. So here, anyways, on this, for this 4 hour candle had not yet closed, so we were up here obviously when I was entering the trade. But here on the 1 hour, this was what screwed me over a bit, because here we closed this candle here with a long wick, wicking the liquidity. This candle, however, now what I'm looking at, it was the 02, was the 2 a.m. candle, which doesn't really tell me a lot because I'm trading the London session, and for me that starts at 3 a.m. So anyways, this candle showed respect to the liquidity, which indicated to me that, okay, if we truly respect this liquidity and we want to continue lower, this next 1 hour candle should be a down candle and prevent this tiny 1 hour value gap from being created, which never happened, but we instead closed as a bullish candle and came up above this previous candle high. So on the 15 minutes, also no real confirmation here, but we respected, first, as I mentioned, we respected this high. That respect of this premium array made the sting into this discount array in the form of this 50-minute value gap a lot deeper. We can see we came into it 3 times before eventually sweeping this candle's low to then continuing higher. And we also came into the overlapping defense here, which was this tiny breaker here. So from there I wanted to see a continuation to the upside, because obviously I was kind of married to my bias, which I'm not proud to say, but I can't lie. So I have to be honest with myself, or else I will not improve. And here, continue higher. This is where the, which was kind of too, or not too late, but it didn't really surprise me, because now we had this 50-50 area where we were bouncing between this premium array and this and these discount arrays. So I wanted to see a close above the 50-50 area, which we got. And on the 5 minutes we had a fair value gap, but this was my this was something I made a mistake to as well, because I mentioned here to myself when I was in the execution phase of the trade that I would want the fair value gap to be perfectly overlapping with the high, which we never got. And we had this fair value gap instead. So then I changed my boundary a little bit to just want this next candle to at least be an up candle. So that made me execute the trade anyways, even though we had signs of potentially not wanting to continue higher after all. So we came up, swept this high, or swept the 50-50 area high to then displace lower, stop me out immediately. This was also a kind of a not really my style of a trade because I usually scalp. This was more of a day trade where I could have held this for hours. To be honest, I'm not that satisfied with this trade, and this is something that it just feels bad when you take these trades, because after the fact, when you realize what you've done, it just doesn't make sense why I took this trade, but at the moment it made sense. So that is why you have to be so in control of your own mind and just be in the now. Zone out sometimes and ask yourself, are you here? Are you okay? What am I doing? Like simple questions just to make sure that you're still conscious and not on autopilot when trading. And actually I have two things as well that I want to bring up, which is two things that can help me prevent these types of losses. So here on the 50 minute, for example, I have it written out, so I have in front of me right now that 1, which is basically 2 boundaries. 1, wait for a sweep during the session. Right here we had this sweep, perfect. And 2, if trading a run on liquidity, which I was doing here, I was hoping for this to be a run, always wait for at least a 15-minute fair value gap to be created within the session to confirm the trade ID, because that is always how I have been taking my winning trades. Most of my winning trades are off of a 15-minute fair value gap that has been created during the session. So it does not make sense for me to now ignore that trading plan or trading style to just switch to something that obviously does not work. And of course I cannot judge this way of trading just after one trade, but to me it just feels a lot better to, for example, right here we can see that, and this is also at the perfect timing, because I've also noticed that the winning trades I take are often after 4 a.m. But the trade I took yesterday that was a break even, and the trade I took today have both been taken before 4 a.m. so very early in the session, which does not really line up with my strategy, because at 4 a.m. I feel like you already have kind of a you already kind of know what happened, because the Judah swing or the manipulation move into higher time frame premium array or higher time frame discount array has already most likely happened. So it's just a lot easier to trade the real move or the continuation slash distribution to whatever side the market wants to trade towards. But right here, if I would have traded like I did just 2 weeks ago, which I had to go back to, is we had this 50-minute value gap be created perfectly at 4:30, which by the way is the highest probability time for me to enter a trade, and that is shown by my data. So here, if we would have taken that trade, wait for the 15-minute fair value gap to be traded into 1-minute ST, had huge fair value gaps to the upside, manipulation move to the upside, then the bearish fair value gap here, the ST, and enter of the creation of that fair value gap, covering that high, targeting Asia lows, or these lows perhaps at first, then Asia lows right here, then the 4-hour fair value gap, which would have been a lot better trade. But I cannot take that trade right now because it has already played out and I was not looking at the charts after taking this first trade. So that is something I can take into account, and I really just had to snap back to reality and ask myself, or go through my previous winning trades, because this trade I am not very happy with it. So that was this trade recap.